Kathleen Lange, International Cake Design Artist and Instructor, coming to you today to demonstrate for More Than Cake and also for this incredible opportunity with virtual at Cake Expo. Thank you to all the Cake Expo coordinators that have been working on this great event, and I'm so sorry that we're unable to meet this year in Reno. It just breaks my heart not being able to see each and every one of you. I'm such a people person and hands-on decorating teacher, so it's more difficult for me to show you something online than it is to show it to you in person. Plus we miss that interaction. But I hope you're all safe and healthy, and I hope we get together next year and be able to do this in person. Just until then, stay healthy and happy, and just learn as much as you can and use those skills to better your talents. Anyway, so back to what I'm going to be doing today. I'm here with More Than Cake, helping represent an icing that I thoroughly enjoy and believe in and am proudly endorsing. Anyway, it's an amazing royal icing mix. It's called a royal mix. It's actually a pre-mix, and so this is all albumin with only a few ingredients. And all you have to do is add water and sugar and flavoring, and you can flavor any flavor you want. More Than Cake has such an incredible product line of all their different types of flavors that come in dry powder form, so it takes much less to flavor anything that you would want to flavor. You can use it in meringues, royal icing, without affecting the integrity of the icing itself. Plus, you're only using 1/16 of a teaspoon or a little bit more depending on what you're flavoring. But the royal mix, this is a pre-mix, so it's basically like if you were to buy a meringue powder, but it's better because it's all albumin, it's all egg white. So it makes the strongest icing that possible for all applications. And for me, being on the road and teaching, it's incredible. It saves me time, it saves me money, and you will find the same. So basically, you will follow the directions that are on the back of the package. And I always recommend that you use a scale for more accurate measurements. Good quality powder sugar, which I pretty much like a 10 times sugar, which means 10, like sifting. If it's sifted 10 times, that makes it finer. And then again, one of the flavors from More Than Cake, Perfect Palette Flavors. I also recommend using water that has no, like these don't have the minerals and things that sometimes if you were to use the faucet water, it may affect some of the times your colors, things like that. So you're basically going to use the mix, sugar, water, and flavor. And mix it just like you would approximately 7 minutes on a medium speed. What's so incredible about this icing is you can add more sugar if you need it stiffer, more water if you need it thinner. It's used for all applications, and it dries really quickly. So this is the basic mix, makes 8 pounds. So you only use like 2 tablespoons and a teaspoon of this mix to like 2 cups of sugar. Basically, you're using a small amount and you're not wasting anything. So as we go on and I show you the string work, you're going to see how incredible this icing is. So I'll get ready to show you how the icing looks, how to do the decorating bags, and then we'll continue on to string work. I also wanted to mention during my demonstration that if you log on to More Than Cake, which actually I realize this will show backwards, so I will actually do a screenshot and show you the actual website. But if you mention my name, which is actually, you'll do the Flavor Gourmet /discount/Lange, Lange, you will be getting a discount. You will also be registered to win an Eddie Spence, not the book, but actually a video. But Eddie Spence, which is the royal icing master in the UK, he has a video out, and it will be an autographed copy. So I will give you that information as soon as the demo is over again. But just remember, you will also be offered a discount and your name placed in a drawing for the upcoming DVD by Eddie Spence. Okay, now that I have the frosting made, I just wanted to show you, because I don't want to take away time making royal icing, because you can watch some of the other videos that will be coming out that actually show how to make the icing, but this one I want to concentrate on string work and how the icing should actually look. This one's been sitting for about an hour, and what I really like about this icing is I can keep it just covered with a piece of cellophane. I don't like to put a damp cloth directly over it, otherwise it kind of develops water. But what's really nice about this icing, it works in all climates, especially humidity, and dries just as quickly. So this icing, like I mentioned, actually was made earlier. What's really nice is it can be airy as it sits in the bowl, but once you start stirring it, it becomes smooth again. Again, if you wanted to, it's a little brighter. Let's see if I can, there you can kind of see it. It becomes a very smooth icing, smooth royal icing. If it has any air bubbles, you just stir it until it's completely smooth. And like I said, cover it with a saran wrap rather than a damp cloth, and it keeps it airtight. And then when I want to use it, it works great. When I was in Arizona teaching my famous boot camp, I had some people that actually put the royal icing, I always say they scraped their icing off their board for practicing, placed it in a bowl, and I had them put a damp cloth over it, and it reconstituted the dried royal icing. So then you could use it again, which again, there's no waste. So it's more bang for your buck. Anyway, so that was a quick tip. There's also many other tips on the website, Kathleen Lange's website, Confectionery Chalet, or More Than Cake's website as well. But, so I went ahead and I covered this for right now. I also want to explain how to store it after you're done with it. I just put it in little containers. A lot of times I may put them in Ziploc bags. I have actually left these sitting out for a day or so in a cool room. Go back to it, stir it, and I can reuse it right away without having to rebeat it in the mixer. Works great because then I'm not wasting any of my colors, which is even better. Again, you could mix 1 cup recipe, 2 cups. You could mix a pound, or you can mix a 4-pound recipe. With this bag of premix, you can mix as much icing as you need or little as you need. So that's what's so great about this. It has a 2-year shelf life. And so I usually also, one recommendation is shake it really good to reincorporate all the ingredients before you use it. And it works for runouts, flood work, for another word for it, for cookies, for string work, for anything that you want to use royal icing for. It's the best tasting icing. Plus you can add any flavor to it. And I added caramel for my gingerbread cookies, and oh my goodness, they were incredible tasting. So what's really nice is once you have the colors, you've stored them, then I would just recommend you could even put them in the freezer if you're not going to use them until a later date. Pull it out, let it come to room temperature, stir it. If it seems like it needs a little more sugar, add more sugar. If it seems a little too thick, add a little more water. You can control the icing. You can control the consistency of the icing. That's what's so incredible about it. I also, once you have all these different leftover colors from other things that I've done, I mix them all together, even if they have other flavors. And I don't want to waste it. So what I do is I mix them all together. Looks like 3 cups of icing. I add a cube of sweet butter, softened, and I mix that up and then add powdered cocoa powder to it. And I usually sift the cocoa powder. And you can add a little bit of liquid if you need to, and then you make a chocolate icing. And you can use the buttercream. Just add as much butter to it as you need to, as much of the cocoa powder, unsweet cocoa powder, and extra liquid, and you've made a chocolate icing to frost a cake with. And I like to do it, I wouldn't do it with old icing that I've been using all the time. I would do it with, leftover colors of cookies that I just completed, and then go back and mix them all together, add the cocoa butter or cocoa powder, and the butter, and you have chocolate icing. So as with all of my demonstrations, I always have so much information, I get tongue-tied at times, but I just want to give you as much as I can in the short amount of time that I have. Again, I'm known for the Lange style, which is an English technique. Royal icing, this is the Lange book. Okay, I'm known for Lange boot camps, and my boot camps run 2, 4, 6, and 8-day boot camps. And everybody goes, what can you do in 8 days? Well, anytime you're piping, the more you pipe, the better you get. So my motto is you keep piping and you learn and you become more precision as you go. So I'm going to show you today, a lot of people say, I hate working with royal icing. I don't want to have to work with parchment paper. I like to work with plastic bags. What's the best thing to work with? Well, I prefer parchment, especially when I'm doing small amounts. And the reason is, when you have a very small tip, like a tip number 0, like PME, if you were to fill a plastic bag with that, you would have a really difficult time squeezing the bag after a while. So I always say small tip, small bag. So that's why I prefer working with parchment. So parchment meaning like parchment cones, and you make your little decorating cone. And this is a small size. You can make any size you need depending on the size of the tip. Now the plastic bags are disposable. A lot of the smaller PME tips don't necessarily fit on a coupler, and I prefer using a coupler so I can switch it out if I need to. But if not, when you're using a tip like this, you could put it directly into the bag. That would be fine as well. And there's also little tip covers that you could actually place on top of them to keep the tips from drying as it's sitting. Okay? Once you have and want to make a parchment paper, I usually recommend, I'll show you my way of doing it. It's also Wilton, different ones use the same techniques of folding the bag. It's a personal preference. But everybody goes, I hate folding them. They fall apart. I can't work with them. Anyway, A, B, C is what I kind of, as a visual, I take A, bring it up to B. So I'm kind of twisting it around so it lays inside and makes an automatic cone right away. Then I'm going to take C around A and B, and I have a cone. Ta-da! Anyway, you have one, I say like a little triangle or ear on the inside and the outside. You don't want to pull them just straight up, because if you pull them straight up, it's going to give you no stability for your bag. You want reinforcement, so you want to cross those over, one on the inside, one on the outside. And I say always make like a small W. It looks like a little W. The smaller the W, the tighter the point. See? You can see that really tight point. You want to be able to not have water drip out of it. Okay? The tighter the point and the smaller the W, small W, gives you a larger bag inside. You fold the W inside the bag. I find it easier to do it inside. And then I put a little tear in it. And this just holds it in place. Okay? You can mark them with a little marker if you need to. Like I marked my previous ones, like with a 0, what I'm going to be working with. So you don't get them all mixed up. Also, when you're going to cut the bag to put the tip in, you just basically put the tip down inside the bag and cut it about 1/3 to halfway up. And that will secure the tip in there. And once you add the icing into it, it'll hold the tip into place. You also, when you're adding the icing, is use a small spatula to place the icing in the bag. Because if you don't use a small spatula, if you're going to take a large spatula and start to put it in, you're going to get it all over your bag. Okay? So if you have a smaller spatula, let me just grab one. So a smaller type spatula, angled spatula. Make sure before you fill your bag to stir your icing really well. Now some people will actually say they want to paddle the icing. And paddling the icing means that you're breaking the air out of it so that you're not going to have any air bubbles when you go to decorate with it. With this icing, I've usually been able to just stir it and it becomes really creamy and smooth. Can you see that? I know it's hard with the light. I have to have the light to see, but hard to see if it's too bright. The other thing is to remember that your icing should pretty much stand up when you lift the spatula up, and it can bend over just slightly. That's a great icing for string work. If it's too thin, a lot of times it will break. If it's too stiff, it will break. So you just stir it really nice and easily. Get it ready and have it. That's what's really nice, is it can be sitting here an hour and I can go back and just start stirring it, and it ends up working out so nicely for my icing and decorating bag. So you would go ahead, and when you're placing your icing in your bag, take a small amount on your spatula and start down at the tip of your bag and place it in your bag. I always fill it no more than half full. So just keep placing the icing into the bag, small amounts at a time. Okay. Some people will use a decorating bag as well to refill their bags, but I just put a small amount in. When I fold the bag, I just press down, and I kind of do it as a triangle where I fold it in towards myself. Kind of a triangle. Here, I'll go this way. And then a lot of times I'll fold it down or in the back. And then this way, it gives me control to hold it with my fingers, okay? Especially for string work, because then I can drop it much more easily, okay? So this works out really well. And then I just put the tip into a damp cloth. Don't let the damp cloth hit the edge of the bag or it gets it all soggy. So just the point of the tip. You can also put a little bit of icing outside of the tip to help it keep from drying, and then place it, just the tip of it, against the wet cloth or damp cloth. And that will help keep it to where you can continue to work with it. Because as you know, as you work with royal icing, it starts to dry and then it will plug your tips. So, and the tips that I prefer using are the PME tips. They have no crease, like no little seams on them, and they work the best for me. And if you notice this cake I used different types of string work. It's my little Victorian wedding cake. And I did different types of string work, and I used all PME tips, along with some ice and malt pieces, and I made toothpick roses. So what's really important to me, as I had mentioned, is an icing that I can continue to use, but if I can just stir it and not have to rebeat it all the time in the mixer, which in previous classes we've worked with large amounts of icing. You have to keep the mixer, you know, the icing in the mixer, keep a damp cloth over it or something, and then rebeat it before we're using it. I've worked with bags up to 2 hours on my hands with the Royal Mix, and it's amazing because it never gets real airy. In fact, for 8 hours at the Cookie Con, one of the shows, I was able to have a 0 tip in the bag, just keep the bag next to a damp cloth, and I was able to use the same bag all day without any air bubbles. That's what's so incredible about this icing. So this one's a 0 tip. It's actually been in the bag an hour or more. And so basically, just using the 0, it's really fine. If for some reason it curls when it's coming out of a tip, then you know that there's dry particles or something in the tip that's causing it to actually curl or make it break or not work as well. So with this icing, 0 tip, you can just squeeze and let it drop, and you can pull it out, ease it off, and bring it up. I mean, look how incredible this icing is. You can kind of see that. Usually within a minute, depending on the humidity or the air. In here it's a little warm because it's also summer and I'm in my jacket. And if I run air, it would make it too noisy for you to hear, but it starts to stabilize and start drying fairly quickly, and you can do lace pieces and different things with it as well. But usually with a minute, I'm able to start holding it up and be able to, you know, like even pipe it on a piece of wax paper or something that I want to transfer lace pieces to, oh my gosh, they're gone. They're usually dry within an hour. You could even put them in the dehydrator if you wanted them to speed up the process of the drying period. But if you can look at this, it's starting to dry already. Just barely is it starting to move on one of them that I did towards the last. So it really starts holding up. It's, it's incredible icing. So you're definitely going to have to try it out. And I hope that, if you have any questions, ask me. So I'll show you the next step. Before I start showing you some of the string work that I'm going to do, we're going to just do basic string work, but I wanted to show you the different types I have done with the Royal Mix. And this was at the show last year. It's been moved when we moved from our home to where we are now, and it's been on the road with me on flights, so a couple things have broke, but because of me, more so. But you can see how good this icing works for string work. That's what's so incredible about it. And I also did the little toothpick roses with it as well. And then the cookies, these were what I was actually going to do as a class this year in Reno at the Cake Expo, but you can see the detail. These are the overpiped cookies. And this I did a caramel flavor, run out, or flood work as you would call it. And then I decorated with the different tips. You can see the details. Okay. And the same like with this cookie as well. It's my Victorian cookies. I just love this icing because this is a caramel flavor on a gingerbread cookie, and it's incredible tasting, and everybody's like, I've tasted cookies before but nothing like that, or icing before but nothing like this one. So those are a few different things that you can do with it. Also, I have this board as well showing some of the techniques, and my class that I'm going to do, my next virtual class. Now to continue on with string work, I just wanted to give you some hints on different things and how to do string work. This is just String Work Basic 101. I'm not really doing a project cake, I'm just showing you different tips and how to work with it, the Royal Mix. So for dividing your cake in half and quarters and eighths, the best thing is I like to use the little parchment circles, and I like to fold them in half, and then a quarter, and eighths, depending on the size of the cake, and sixteenths. Normally I don't like more than a 2-inch span. A lot of times it makes it too difficult and will cause breakage and look too long and droopy on a cake. A lot of times too, I don't like the string work to go the halfway point. If it's right to the halfway point, it looks too long. It just looks like it's top heavy. So a lot of times a third of the way, a quarter of the way is a good distance down from the top edge of the cake, depending on your design as well. But I divide, cake circle, so I went a whole circle, did it in half and quarters, and then you could do eighths or you could do sixteenths by doing it in thirds, depending on which way that works best for you and what your design is. A lot of times I do an accordion fold if I'm going to do it sixteenths, because then that way you're not going to have uneven dividing marks. Also, you go ahead and you can use cake dividers as well. There's several different techniques. This is pretty old school, but it works pretty accurately. And see, you just keep working it until you get it to the right distance and folds, and you can get it right about, as you can see, it's kind of slipping on me. And then you go ahead and crease it. I'll get it back over here again. Sorry, it's taken a little bit. Okay, so then you go ahead and crease it to what you want it to be, to the edges. Okay, and then a lot of times I do like a little cut or something at an angle and open it, and then you would place it on your cake depending on the size, and then you divide your cake so you have like the pie shapes. Okay, so this is a good way of dividing. I've already made some dividing marks just to make it a little quicker and easier. The other technique I have to show as well is taking a level. And this is really a nifty little thing. It's a level I got at a hardware store. And it basically tells whether my cake is level or not. But then the really cool thing is it does a mark on my cake, if you can see that. I think you can see how it gives me the level. That's what's really cool, because then I have an area that I can use to actually drop my string work and make it to where it's not the halfway point, but it's just above the halfway point, and it gives me a visual in order to drop my string work to. So that's really cool, nifty little thing just at the local hardware store. When you start practicing string work, I'll turn this off for a second. When you start practicing the string work, I always recommend practicing like on some sort of a display board, something that you can practice. This one I use is divided 1-inch squares, and then that way when I go to drop my string work, I know exactly the sizing I'm going to do. Now, you can hold your tip, like I said, and draw like a pen, or you can drop it. I tend to drop on any type of string work that you're going to do on the side of the cake, because then that way it will be more evenly scalloped. If you try to draw it, it's going to be at an angle. And so one thing I tell people as well is when you start straight lines, or anything with a straight line, you place a little bit of the frosting out of the tip. See, just a little bit of the frosting so it's out of the tip. Okay, and you just do a little bit of the frosting, and then you touch down, and then that way you don't get a bump at the beginning of your line. And lift up and let it drop, ease off your pressure, and touch down. So I know it's very difficult to see because it is white on a light pink, but you don't get that little dot where you start and finish, as you can see at the close-up. Okay, so when I'm dropping on the side of a cake, I'm going to just lightly, just barely squeeze, touch it so that it has no bump, let it drop until it's about the length I want it, ease off the pressure, and bring it to the side of the cake again. Okay, and then that way you have a nice even line. I never start on top of the next string or directly on it, I start beside it. Oops. And I just barely squeeze and touch so that it doesn't give me a bump. I let it drop, and I usually have like a number 16 tip handy, and I do them approximately a number 16 star tip distance away from each other so that they have a nice distance and not too close. Because everybody's like, how do I know how close to get my strings? So just squeeze, let it drop, ease off your pressure, and touch down. And this is just basic string work, but it's going to give you an idea and some tips of how to work on your cakes. So I'll bring my cake back over here. My level again, I'll turn on so you can kind of see. And it's really difficult because you need to do it the way that you're going to be able to see it on the camera. I'm going to do it a little bit, it's a little higher or lower than I want, but like you can adjust the height of your cake depending on what you're going to do. But I'm just going to show you for now how this will work. Actually, let's see. I want to bring it up just a little bit higher. So let's see if I can take my towel here. Let's go a little lower. There, that's that's pretty much how I would want it. So as you can see, I have that little laser, okay? And a lot of times I do it off to the side so I can see where it's at. It's a little more difficult with you here, trying to see and show at the same time. But I'm going to barely squeeze. I'm going to touch the cake, and I'm going to let the tip drop. Now this is a 1.5, which is really nice for this size cake, or certain size cakes. I like it the half sizes because they're not too big compared to some of the regular size tips. And then I'm going to start right beside it. Now a lot of times you can do the longest one first and then drop the next one just a little bit shorter. Ease off the pressure and touch down. I'm not moving my hand at all. I'm just letting it drop. See how you can see? Like I said, a number 16 star tip, if you place in between, will be a good distance. I usually like to do all the long strings first. This is a 14. This would be a little too close, but you can see to where it has a little bit of the distance. Okay, so if we went ahead and did string work, just squeeze, let it drop, ease off the pressure when you're about the right distance, and bring it to the cake. So you can do this all the way around. There's a little boogered up area on the cake here. This is just a display cake that I had sitting around and I wanted to demonstrate on, just to give you guys an idea. Okay, it's just a quick demonstration on string work and how good the icing works. And this royal mix has been in the bag now over 2 hours. Ease off the pressure and bring it up. So I haven't had to rebeat it or anything. That's what's so incredible. Okay, squeeze, let it drop, ease off the pressure when it's about the length you want it, and touch the cake. Okay, it's always different when you're doing it as a demonstration versus in a class, but it's going to give you the idea. Normally I hold your hand and let you work, and I guide your hand so that you can actually see. So squeeze, let it drop, ease off the pressure, and bring it to the cake. And this way you get a nice even string. And it dries so quickly. And if you, for some reason, if it makes a mistake, you can always take your brush with a little bit of water or alcohol, and you can always, touch it up anywhere you need to, or just give it a little, just to help touch it up. Okay, squeeze, let it drop, ease off the pressure, and bring it up. Now you can also, and it's best to have it straight with you, because you're going to end up getting your lines much more evenly if you have it straight, because it's going to drop in a natural scallop straight with you. Now I can do overlapping string work, which is really fun, and this could be either longer or shorter than the previous strings. So you squeeze, oops. Squeeze a little bit, then touch. Squeeze, let it drop. I'm going to do it a little shorter. Ease off the pressure and touch down. Okay? And I could do these all the way around. Squeeze, let it drop. Ease off your pressure and touch down. Okay? Remember to just barely squeeze, touch, and then let it drop. And I'm keeping the tip actually level with the top edge of the cake as well. And that's keeping it to be more evenly draped as well. Isn't that cool? And once you do the string work and you learn the perfect technique of letting it drop and easing it off, that you're going to be able to do endless string work, which is incredible. With a decorating tip and a bag, you can do anything. And this is the way we keep piping alive. I hope I've been able to show you a few techniques to make it a little easier for you. And I hope in the future that we have a class together in order to really learn the intricate detail of Lambeth and English over piping along with the string work. If you can do string work, zigzags, and borders, you can do Lambeth. Okay, so I'll finish up. I hope you enjoyed today's demonstration. I really wish it was more one-on-one as I discussed previously, but I hope I gave you a better understanding of how to use a royal mix by More Than Cake. And don't forget to use and go to the flavorgourmet.com and use discount/Lange. And I'll show that as well on the video. I'll take a picture so that you can see the exact website to get the discount and also into the drawing for the Art of Royal Icing with Eddie Spence. Not the book, but his video, his DVD that'll be autographed. So I hope you enjoy it, and please stay safe. And if you have any questions, please let me know. And I look forward to seeing you all in person soon. And I hope to also be doing more videos and helping promote a royal mix, because it's an icing that I really do believe in and that I'm endorsing, and the products are incredible as far as the flavorings. I mean, who would have thought adding papaya mango and lemon tree and all these different flavors to a royal icing and have it taste like the real fruit and enhance the flavor of your cakes, meringues, anything that you're doing, you can use this flavor in. So again, thank you, and I hope to see you soon. And if you have any questions, please email or contact myself, Kathleen Lange, or More Than Cake with Jackie Curtis. Thank you and have a great day.